Kyler Murray was one of the bigger stories of the offseason in terms of the fact that 3 years in the NFL, he's due for a contract extension, hadn't got one yet. Well, that changed last week. He signed a 5-year, $230 million extension, $160 million of that money guaranteed. Now, that now makes Kyler Murray, in terms of average annual salary, the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL to Aaron Rodgers. It puts him a tick above Mahomes and Josh Allen, puts him above Deshaun Watson. Dak's there at $40 million. Somebody's in between Dak and Mahomes. I forgot who it was. It's not. Was it Russell Wilson? I don't think it was Russ. It was somebody else. Point is, Kyler Murray got paid. Now, frequent listeners or viewers of the show, we appreciate you guys, by the way, but frequent viewers and listeners to the show know that I'm sort of lukewarm on Kyler Murray. I wasn't huge on him coming out of Oklahoma. Obviously, Heisman Trophy winner. We know what this guy could do. Two-sport athlete. All he was a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft by the Oakland Athletics. Okay, so he's not just a two-sport athlete like that can play baseball, like say like a Russell Wilson. Like Russell can play baseball. He wasn't a top 10 pick. Like this, Kyler is a brilliant athlete. We know he's got phenomenal arm strength, can move. He's for a guy who's 5'9", he's got a pretty solid frame. Right, a somewhat similar to Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson's a little bit stronger. Certainly, obviously, Russell's about 2 inches taller than Kyler, inch and a half. But point of it all is, after 3 years, I've said this about Kyler. Dude is ridiculously talented and is no question a franchise quarterback. So in that sense, listen, the Cardinals didn't have a choice. Okay, the Cardinals, in between the sort of quick rise and quicker fall of Carson Palmer in the twilight of his career, were in quarterback purgatory. In between the bad years of after the MVP caliber season of Carson Palmer up until Kyler Murray in 2019, it was bad. I mean, Cardinal fans, I don't have to remind you about the 1 year of Josh Rosen. It was some rough days in Arizona. But draft Kyler Murray number 1 overall in 2019. He has a solid rookie season. I believe they won 5 games that year. I think they went 5-10-1. Then in 2020, won 8 games. Kyler made the Pro Bowl. 2021, he made another Pro Bowl, and they made the playoffs. Now, of course, we know Arizona got off to that red-hot 10-2 start. We're thinking they might be the favorites to come out the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. Kyler Murray's in the top 3-4 for MVP, and then it just completely, nosedives from there. DeAndre Hopkins gets hurt. Kyler's playing beat up, and they only win 1 game. After starting 10-2, they only won a single game the rest of the season. And then they got humiliated in the wild card loss against the Los Angeles Rams. And so when it comes down to it, my guy Across the Pond Sports, James Scott, shout out to the people at Across the Pond. James Scott says, I love Kyler, but he's overpaid. The thing about the overpaid argument, the thing I've always said is this. First of all, we got to talk about the guy getting paid. Okay. Has he established himself as a franchise quarterback? I think Kyler has. I don't think there's really a question. There's many people who argue he's a top 10 quarterback. I don't. Can he be? No question. No question. But where the market's going, you look where Lamar Jackson may join Aaron Rodgers in that average annual salary department of the number starting with a 5. We're talking, not just, 5 million, but we're talking, 8 figures, number starting with a 5 for Lamar Jackson. So for the Cardinals, it's you better pay Kyler now or you're going to really regret it later, because then the price is just going to keep going up, up, up. Ask the Dallas Cowboys. Could have gotten Dak for 30, 35 million, but because they procrastinated and Jerry didn't believe in Dak, he had to pay him 40. That's on Jerry. Jerry could have paid Dak when he had the opportunity to give him, in between 30, 35, but he ended up paying him 40. That's on Jerry. Cardinals, you don't want to make that same mistake. Because again, when that new TV money comes in 2 or 3 years from now, quarterbacks can be making $60 million a year. There's no question about it. Like the price for a star franchise quarterback is just going to continue to go up. And you're talking about a guy in Kyler Murray. And this is what I've always admired Josh Allen for this, Dak Prescott for the same reason, and I think Kyler Murray's in the same department. You've seen the improvement year to year. His passer rating went from 94 to 97 to 100. You're seeing those gradual improvements. The past few years, of his first 2 years in the league, he threw 12 picks. This year, 10. Now, he missed a few games, so maybe that number skewed a little bit. But he's a guy who can push the ball down the field, who obviously we know about his athleticism. He's not as fast as Lamar Jackson, but, man, he can get out of that pocket fast and be a problem with his legs. The questions I've always had about Kyler Murray are intangibles. When we talk about the young quarterbacks in the NFL, I'm not even talking about just the veteran. I'm not talking about the veterans. Take Brady, Wilson, take those guys out. Some of the younger guys coming in the NFL, I mean, you want to talk about just phenomenal leadership intangibles that they've shown. Guys like Burrow, guys like Herbert, even to a certain degree, Patriots locker room seems to have bought into Mac Jones. I haven't by any stretch of the imagination. Patriots have. Meanwhile, in Arizona, you got a guy who's deleting Instagram posts that have anything to do with the Arizona Cardinals. You have reports out of Arizona saying that it's kind of a lot. He's kind of a lot to deal with. And I pointed out in this show, and this is the case all season long, but especially in the playoff loss to the Rams, Kyler Murray showed about as bad body language as I've seen since Jay Cutler. I mean, just slumping his shoulders and giving really dirty looks to receivers and not talking to anybody, kind of isolating himself on the bench. Just in some ways, I'm not going to use the Q word for Kyler Murray, but there was a certain suspicion, like is he kind of just out? Is his mindset, is he out of this game after a couple bad drives and the Rams go up whatever it was 14-0 in the first two drives? So that's one thing you do have to worry about with Kyler Murray. Like, I've criticized Aaron Rodgers' intangibles profusely on this show. I don't think they're as bad as Kyler's. That's the only thing I worry about. By the way, health. That's something else. Kyler has ended the last 2 seasons injured. I think it's no coincidence that a guy who moves around as much as he does and as small as he is dealing with those types of lower body injuries. So the question for the Cardinals is, can they improve this year like they have the past 3? Right? Because, if you're looking glass half full, if you're a Cardinals fan, you're saying, hey, we went from 5 wins to 8 wins to 11 wins. You'll take that. But at the same time, you're also saying, yeah, but it's kind of been a trend, especially in the last 2 seasons, 2020, 2021. We get off to a red hot start and then just absolutely nosedive in late November on from there, from Thanksgiving on. Now, the question now, and I don't think we'll get this question answered this year, possibly next year, what we'll see, is that a Cliff Kingsbury thing? Is it a Kyler Murray thing? Is it both? I would argue it's a Cliff Kingsbury thing because he did it at Texas Tech. I mean, look at his record in like the first 5 games or so in the games he coached at Texas Tech. Keep in mind, at one point, he had Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback. He's pretty good if you haven't heard. And then look at the last half of the season. And what that shows me is teams get film on you and you get somewhat predictable. So that's something you do have to worry about if you're the Arizona Cardinals moving forward. But in terms of should the Cardinals have paid Kyler? Absolutely. You have to pay Kyler. Listen, quarterbacks are so hard to find. Wide receivers, I've said in the show for a while, wide receivers are probably the easiest position to find in the NFL. They are, for whatever reasons, obviously because there's more of that position. These 7-on-7 camps, these kids are becoming better route runners, are becoming more durable, faster than, look, Tyreek Hill is, ridiculous. Even Hollywood Brown, Kyler's new receiver in Arizona, can fly, good hands. You got these big, tall receivers. Look at Kyle Pitts. He's a tight end, just a freak athlete. Could play wide receiver if he wanted to. Like, wide receivers easy to find. You can even find offensive linemen fairly well if you get a good scouting department. Defensive linemen, the occasional corner, safety, quarterbacks. Ask the Chicago Bears. Chicago Bears been looking for their franchise quarterback for basically the whole Super Bowl era. The whole Super Bowl era. They've been, the Jets, ever since Joe Namath, they've been trying to find their franchise quarterback. It's hard. I mean, think about a team like the Dallas Cowboys, for example. Like, they drafted Troy Aikman number 1 overall in 1989. Okay, Troy plays 12 years. They win 3 Super Bowls. And then in between Troy and the next star Cowboys quarterback, Tony Romo, man, it's I mean, you got Quincy Carter in there. I mean, it's some rough sailing for Dallas, but they kind of lucked into Romo. He was undrafted. And they kind of lucked into Dak in 2016. He was a 4th-round pick. Find a quarterback. Some of it's just flat out luck. Now, the Cardinals, they drafted their guy number 1 overall. We expected him to be great. Whole different story than, say, in Dallas. But they are hard to find. Great quarterbacks do not grow on trees. They don't. So when you find your guy, you take care of him. That's why the Baltimore Ravens, I don't know what the heck y'all doing with Lamar Jackson, man. Give that man his money. Because A, the price is going to go up, and B, Lamar doesn't have an agent right now, so that means negotiations possibly could get a little ugly. Just go and take care of him now. I mean, this guy's won 75% of his games. But anyways, yeah, I think the Cardinals absolutely made the right decision paying Kyler. I mean, what else are they going to do? What else are they going to do? You got to give that man his money. But, listen, for Arizona, the question is going to be for them, I think I don't want to say we're going to know where they're going throughout the course of the season through the first 6 games, but the first 6 games are crucial. No DeAndre Hopkins. He's suspended. Now, they did go out and get Hollywood Brown. Big plus, big upgrade. Loved Hollywood Brown at Oklahoma. Gets to team up with his college quarterback, Kyler Murray. Keep in mind, these receivers that team up with their college quarterbacks have been pretty successful. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow is at the top of that list. I mean, all they did was lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl. Even Tua, who I'm not a huge fan of at all as a franchise quarterback, team him up with his old college teammate, Jalen Waddle. Waddle had over 1,000 yards. So can Hollywood Brown, at least for 6 games, emerge as a true number 1 receiver? I think he's got the potential to. He's got the quarterback that's going to get him the ball. Can they execute? That's the thing. Bring Zach Ertz back. So look, I mean, and you obviously have J.J. Watt coming back on defense. How healthy can he stay? That's always been the big question for him in the back half of his career. Can he give you 10, 11 games? If he can, you'll take that any day of the week. You'll take that and you'll run with it, and you'll hope that he can possibly be healthy for a playoff run. But is Arizona one of the 7 best teams in the NFC? I think so. It's all about health, particularly for their quarterback, and it's all about staying consistent down the stretch. You don't have to go 10-2 to start the season. You don't have to. If you go 8-4, depending on how their schedule lines up, you want to be able to get off to a good start and kind of maintain that momentum going into the postseason. That's the thing. They came in last year with no momentum. They came in just flat as a tire. And it showed against the Rams. They lost by whatever it was, 23 points. I think it was like 34-11 was the final score. It was rough. It was a hard watch. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube. Be sure to click that big red subscribe button and go check out the other clips and full shows of Carving It Up Live. Have a blessed day.